Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, and thank you for choosing us as you go to Snowpiercer Breakdown. The third episode has just dropped and there's a ton of things to talk about in regards to the show. We finally discover who the serial killer is, and we're going to be giving our theories on what exactly is going on with this and why it could unravel Melanie's disguise. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the latest episode, then I highly recommend that you check out right now. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider subscribing and dropping a thumbs up, as it massively helps us out. Without out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Snowpiercer episode 3. Okay, so episode 3 picks up from the perspective of the Doctor, who pretty much runs the Sleeper's car. We initially see him cutting Miles's hair and taking his blood. As we learned last week, he's been given an apprenticeship and is moving up the train. Now I think this is a power play by Melanie to make it so that Layton has to remain loyal to her, as she can always threaten his son should he finally unearth the truth about her position as Mr. Wilford. However, later in the episode we discover that Miles is becoming an engineer, so this will likely backfire on her, as he will have more access to the train, and of course he's very loyal to the tail. We also see an access chip being cut out of one of the hands of the victims of the serial killer. This chip ties into the title of the episode, Access is Power, and this opening is an awesome way to show how power is traded up and down the train. We see it move up the train to where the 1% are, and they only take it for sport. I actually love this format of these cold openings, and this mirrors Josie's from last week in a lot of ways. I hope that it's the way that the show goes forward, as it really helps you get up to speed with the economy of the carriages and how the black market runs. Now whilst the chip is a notable commodity, we also see a brakeman dealing Chronal in exchange for it. Last week we saw the same character selling it to the tail, and he becomes a pivotal plot point throughout this episode. We also meet a character known as the Janitor, who is sort of an underworld figure on Snowpiercer. In addition to this, you can see a boxer beside him that is missing their arm. As we've learned, this is normally due to a punishment, so this boxer's association with the Janitor subtly hints at him being a rule breaker. A boxing match also becomes a big talking point in the episode, and it is teased with this introduction. Cut to Nikki J, and she's clearly having a Chronal relapse, and she too becomes a big plot point later in the episode, which we'll talk about further in the video. After the title sequence, Layton wakes up, recovering from the beating he received last week. We get a flashback of Zara going to the night car, and this breakup juxtaposes last week's flashback in which we saw the couple meeting and getting engaged. Layton gives her his engagement ring to trade, and similar to the access chip we saw at the beginning, this becomes something that the character can use to trade to get power. In first, Melanie delivers an apparent message from Mr. Wilford to the hospitality staff. Jinju is one of the only ones that isn't completely enamored by it, and she definitely seems like she knows what's going on with Melanie and her dual identity. Commander Gray also realises that Wilford has paraphrased Winston Churchill, and I've kind of tried to think long and hard about what the subtext of this could mean. Personally, I take it as him realising that this speech is Wilford trying to appear as a leader by taking the form of another and hoping that no one would notice. This is of course mirrored in Melanie, who is trying to appear as Wilford, and maybe he's realised that you can't fake leadership for very long. Layton is escorted to Melanie, and they discuss the Chronal dealing that is going on board the train. As we learned in the film, this is a black market drug that causes those on it to have hallucinations. It's also used for sedation in the sleeper car, but it's been modified for street use. Elsewhere we learn that Beth is actually the one dating Jinju, and we did say that we didn't think it was Melanie, even though this was teased in the first episode, so I'm glad that they kind of all finally cleared this up. Beth is slowly becoming my favourite character in the show, and I actually think she will end up becoming part of the revolution, as she's sort of an archetype for someone coming from poverty and then helping those below from the top down. She is seen with feathers tattooed on her back, and birds are often thought of as a symbol of freedom, so I do think her relationship with Layton will be a driving force to make her turn on those in the top. Slowly the show has been slotting characters up train, and I do believe that the revolution will be an almost pincer-like movement from the top and tail that goes in on the middle. So far, Beth, Miles, and the 3 characters that carried out the revolution are all near the front, and it definitely seems like things are being set up that way. Jinju tells Beth not to cross Melanie Cavill, once more hinting that she knows the truth about Wilford. We did mention on our first episode that we love if that Wilford is indeed a real person in this version of Snowpiercer, that there has to have been a revolution up the front that no one knows about. that is, Melanie overthrowing him. Clearly she would have needed help to do this, and as we know, Jinju is a doctor, so she could be keeping the character sedated and under wraps whilst Melanie runs the train. I do think that they're saving Wilford for a big reveal, as you don't cast Sean Bean and kill him before he even gets a chance to be in the show. But then again, it is Sean Bean, so who knows. Layton and Roach confront the brakeman about the Chronal dealing, and we once more come face to face with the janitor. Now, janitors aren't people that I initially think of as rich. My bad, Mr. Wilson at school, I know you did a good job. And to be this far up the train, I think you have to have had money, so I do think that this is a nickname rather than his job before Snowpiercer. He likely lied in order to gain a job in the centre of the train, which he could use as a cover. He seems like a high-level gangster and has clearly brought his criminal activities on board the train. I don't know if that's true, I probably am quite wrong on it, as he does talk about being a janitor, but he also clearly knows how the underworld works, so yeah, he's quite a mysterious character, and I love that they're just kind of slotting these in every episode, as you can never really tell who's telling the truth. In first, the excitement of Fight Night is starting to reach fever pitch, and we also see the Folger's bodyguard, who's revealed to be the serial killer on board the train. Now, is he actually the one behind it, or is it the Folgers carrying this out? Well, we did see last time that Lila Jr. told him to put away his gun, and this motif made me think that they were in control of him and that he was merely a servant. At Fight Night, Lila Jr. looks at him, almost instructing him to go after Nicky J, so it does seem like the family is the one behind it all. They are clearly butting heads with Melanie and have been unable to speak to Wilford for some time, even though they helped to finance his train. From this, I would theorise that the killer's interrogation is in order to find out what's really going on with the character, and that after he gets the information, he's been told to kill them so that their mission to find out more doesn't get discovered. Roche does confirm that Wilford indeed existed, as he shook his hand before they boarded, so we do now know for definite that Melanie did overthrow him and take his name. Before we can learn more, Beth announces that Nicky J has woken up. They go to ask her questions, but Melanie arrives before they can get any answers. We learn from Clint, I think it was Clint or Flint, worst breakdown ever, that Chronal has been manufactured from the sedation drug and that he's pretty much key to its dealing. Clint also wears a best dad in the world badge, but similar to Roche, he likely lost his child before the train. After discovering Miles's hair, Layton demands to see him, and we learn that he's in an apprenticeship program to be an engineer, and this likely means that he'll become part of the team that works on the engine itself. Thus, he will become a key aspect of the revolution when it eventually goes ahead, and who knows, he may even be the one to disable the train. Melanie also edits together a speech from existing clips of Mr. Wilford, voiced by none other than Sean Bean. People would of course recognise his voice, and she has to take this measure, likely to throw suspicion off herself. So now this confirms that Wilford is a real person, and the Melanie theories can be put to the side more in favour of the revolution in first ones. Fight Night begins, and if you ever wanted to know who would win between a woman and a one-armed man, here's your chance. Layton meets Zara and she gives him back the ring from the start, showing that she didn't trade it and that she still kept him in her heart. Layton says he put a lot of thought into staying up train with her, but that the tail is where his heart really lies, and thus the revolution lives on. Nicky J goes to the night car, and this is where Lila Jr. instructs her bodyguard to go after her, potentially to cover up the family's plot. The way that the episode culminates definitely makes it seem like they're trying to get to Wilford and discover what's going on with him, but we will of course see as this goes on. The Folgers purposely stay behind after the fight when everyone goes home, possibly making sure that they have an alibi whilst the Nicky J attack is carried out. LJ even waves to Layton, making sure that she's seen so that she cannot be a suspect. I think this will all be unearthed, but we don't know what the family actually knows, and they've clearly been holding on to secrets in order to use them for when they feel compromised. If the serial killer is discovered as the bodyguard, it will be linked back to them, and who knows, they may even reveal the truth about Melanie should they feel threatened. Layton is taken to the janitor, who tells him about his life before the train, in which he cleaned a high-rise building and that the train is just one on its side. I'm still not sure if he's telling the truth about this, but obviously we will see as we get into it. The poster for Snowpiercer does have this high-rise building motif with the train ascending into the air, and I did appreciate this line being dropped which commented on how society works and that those at the top often crap on those below. Layton trades the ring for access to information, and if access is power, then by that thinking, information is power too. People have been killed for Wilford's secrets, and it's all slowly mounting towards Melanie being unearthed. Layton gets to see Josie and he tells her about Miles before passing her the access chip from the start of the episode. So now that people in the tale have a way to travel up, I think we might actually be seeing the revolution a lot sooner than expected. Who knows, if the Folgers are found to be connected to the killer, they may reveal the truth about Melanie, and whilst First is in uproar, Layton could launch the attack from the tail to strike them when they're at their most vulnerable. Considering we're only 3 episodes in, I think the show is really going full steam ahead, and this was another brilliant entry. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the 3rd episode and what your theories are. Comment below and let me know, and if you enjoyed this video and missed our other breakdowns, make sure you click them after this. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. Every month we give away free movies to people who subscribe to the channel, and this month you can win the Marvel Phase 3 Part 2 box set, and all you have to do is comment on a video and make sure you subscribe with notifications on. The more videos you comment on, the more you have a chance of winning, so make sure you get involved. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 15th of June, and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Definition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.